What's going on, guys? I'm just on the PTS, just testing out the latest changes to cloak. I've literally just made a new character. Wish they wouldn't give you all this gear to start off with. Keep deleting it every time. I'll just chuck on a few sets. I won't put the open so on I normally do for ganking, but I probably won't just because I want to test the back bar as well. So we'll just chuck on a crafted set. Shattered Fate might do. And take the jewellery. We've not actually tried full Shattered Fate before. We'd actually try that in the setup. Right, let's put on a few enchantments. Just stack into max magicka, you'll be fine. But the funny thing is, I think most of my gank builds have been in max magicka anyway. Right, consumables, enchantments. Oh, I need the vampire maxer as well. So we'll just slap on like a typical, and that was 4 there, typical sort of gank build. Nothing too crazy. Was that a weakening I just picked up? Do nicely. I use the vampire. I might literally just go, even though I wouldn't normally do arcane everything, but just see how high we can push the max magicka. Not intentionally, but just for testing purposes. Probably will run in a light as well, to be fair. because that extra 5% max magicka. So I mean, so you can see just by having these two equips, being a high elf, I'm not even running any set that even gives you max magicka. You're already pushing nearly 40k. But like I said, they've nerfed this now, so, well, so they've nerfed it, they've nerfed how much it costs the actual skill Shadowy Disguise. Let's put on a few more bits. Impale. That'll do. So we're on the PTS just testing out. Obviously they've changed Shadowy Cloak again, but it's for the better. It's still toggle though. Consumables. Do with a few potions. So we just put up a little basic setup. Nothing too crazy. We can just go out and about testing it. So I think the original cloak was, I think it was around the 4,000 mark cost, and then I think the first PTS they changed it to around 3,000 something, and now it's been dropped, so they've reduced the actual cost. So it's still going to drain, but it's cheaper now. You still get the major prophecy and savagery. You're still going to get that unique 10% damage done to monsters, but obviously not making a difference in PvP. But and you're still going to get that critical strike. It's literally, but it only disables the magicka recovery if you start moving. So if you're not moving, then what is my magicka recovery? So it's nothing insane. Not being funny, it might actually be a nice little setup. Running 12 Shattered Fate. I normally run 5, but 12 actually does give you some nice stats. It's a little bit similar to the Eyelid King, apart from it giving pen instead of damage reduction. But of course, because you're not running the open soul, you've got to make sure you've got your back bar buffs. Welcome everyone to the stream. At least my internet is behaving itself once. So they literally made the change yesterday. I did feel they was going to do a change, of course, because I just think the nerf was a bit too hard, but I think there would have been ways around it. As long as you stacked into max magicka, you would have been fine anyway. But now they've reduced the cost, and when moving, your magicka recovery is disabled, and when you're not moving, Shadowy Disguise is half cost. So we just do it and not move. So essentially this is just going to open the door to infinite cloaking. There was infinite cloaking anyway. If you put on certain sets, you can make that cost reduction so minimal. So that's going to open the door to that again. I don't know what they're thinking, to be honest. I mean, I still think a toggle, it sounds nice in like a environment like this where there's not a lot going on, but obviously in a PvP scenario with lots of stuff going on and lag, this is the concern that a lot of players have, well, a lot of comments I've seen, that is what a lot of people are worried about. You know, because toggles are not great with lag. I think they should have just made a ramping cost, to be honest. I haven't even got a Mundus. Should I get a Mundus? For the sake of this video, I'll probably just put on that recovery one. What was the recovery one? Ritual, isn't it? Ritual. Nice healing done. The apprentice. Oh, that's damage. Magical act. Yeah, that's it. Probably should have tested on a bigger place. Come on, go green. Red. It's what made me quit after 10 years. Oh yeah, I must admit, I don't know, it was just like all these aggressive changes. It does make you want to go elsewhere now, doesn't it? I mean, I've downloaded Throne and Liberty because everyone's raving about that, and it's free to play. So I was actually going to go on that and do a live of that, but it's still not hit the free. It should be hitting today, so I'm definitely gonna be looking into that game. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, this patch has left a bit of a stale taste in everyone's mouths. But like I said, the ganking will be definitely a lot easier. Right, so let's do a bit of testing. So, like I said, when you activate cloak, you're still getting that 10% time, the 10-second timer for the 10% creature damage bonus. Can you demonstrate the new cloak? Yeah, I'm just doing that now. So as you can see, it's active, the cloak, but your recovery does stay. So it's only when you move, it's going to start, you're going to get no recovery. So it starts eating away, so it doesn't matter how much magical recovery you actually have. It's going to start eating away, but as I said, just spec into magicka, because all your damage scales off your highest stat, so your highest stat, you know, can either be magicka or stamina. A lot of people used to spec into stamina. I did originally spec into stamina on my like beginner sort of gank builds I did when I first started the YouTube channel, but then I quickly spec'd into magicka because, to be honest, because of this, it's only purely because of this passive that made me do it. So I think you can get a higher max magicka than stamina on a Nightblade. So obviously, therefore, it's more damage if you go into magicka. So even if you're using a bow build or whatever, I always spec into a magicka. So as long as you've got that high magicka pool. So this is really allowing the door for infinite cloak, to be honest. You know, but the second you stop, you're going to start getting that recovery. If you bar swap, it's still there. It still applies. So again, even if you're bar swapped, you stop moving. See, the recovery is fighting against it now. And as soon as I start moving, even on the back bar, are they going to change the detect pots? I don't think so. I don't think they're going to change those. Not where anything I've read. And they did change them a couple of patches ago to make the radius a lot larger. But that's what I would personally do. Any sort of gank build, just get as much max magicka as possible. But you see, like I said, I've got nearly 40k, and I'm not even running a set that even gives you max magicka. So just spec into. I mean, this is from perspective of a gank build. Yeah, I mean, I don't like the change. I don't like the toggle, but it's definitely workable. I would just recommend having these on your build. On any build you just do, just to get that max magicka higher, just so you've got a longer window. Do you know what I mean? Well, let's just go to some enemies or something. So they've improved it at least. You know, it's better. Zoss trying to kill the game. Yeah, might as well. It's definitely ticked a lot of people off. You know, because a lot of players do play gank. I know there's a lot of players that hate them, but I still think they have their place. You know, with anti-siege, getting behind enemies, flanking enemies. It's definitely a valid play style. I mean, I know people have got their opinions on it, but it's, with any play style, people have their opinions on it. You play with a 40k health build, you know, people hate those. You know, people hate really high health healers. People hate bombers. People hate everything. You know what I mean? Just, but to actually, effectively, they've almost killed a actual full-blown style, which could, you know, potentially be 20% of the PvP player base, and just to say, look, you're not using it now, gone, and get rid of it and change it. But it has come back, but the problem is they've already done the damage, they've already annoyed everyone, so silly change in my opinion, but it is better now, like I said, because purely the cost is not as aggressive. And obviously if you're an Imperial and you can put stuff into cost reduction, I've seen people using the banner and all sorts, you know, the scribing banner, and you can basically get infinite anyway, even as it stood before this change. So it's even easier to get that infinite. But like I said, you don't really need it, to be honest, as long as you've just spec into Magicka and you will be fine. I ain't been to, where is this? Bleak Rock, I ain't been here in a while. I used to be here all the time farming. So we'll just go and find some enemies quickly. But I don't know what they were thinking, really. But it is what it is. I don't think it's going to change now. They've already made a few adjustments, and judging from the long explanation of why they've done all this, it's probably going to stay as it is now. I mean, there's going to be a couple more. You're going to get week 3 and week 4, I believe, and then you're going to get the final patch notes. I don't think there's going to be any more changes. They're probably going to keep the tool. They seem to be adamant that they've made this change. They want to stick with it, and they've basically just made it a little bit sweeter. By making it not as costly, but it does seem a bit of a crazy way to go about it. I can't find one anyway. So being attacked, really should put the vampire on as well, to be honest. I don't think you're going to have any problems. Just make sure you haven't got a small max Magicka is really the way to go about it. You're still getting that critical strike. It's not going to affect any of the damage. So whatever set you basically put on doesn't have to be. I mean, I did do an actual max Magicka build, like 56k max Magicka. It is a little overkill if you're really worried about the Magicka, but to be honest, like I said, just spec into Mag and just run in a light if you want a little extra, because that 5% is nice. And then obviously just have one of the siphoning abilities. I always recommend the Shrewd Offering for the burst heal. Cross healing and tank meta is fine. Yeah, that's what I mean. So they haven't addressed that. Was ganking really an issue? You know, once that was an issue, it's annoying. Do we know when you get ganked or whatever? But like, I think personally, if there's any players that are still going to be ganking, you know, I wouldn't worry too much. Just make these little adjustments and you'll be fine. Let's go back to the gaff. Like I said, I know there is a way to infinite cloak, but I won't be demonstrating that because it's not needed anyway. It's just more for fun. It's to do with the banner, scribing and running a set, but you don't need it. Right, so like I said, on the back bar, obviously I would normally run Oaken Salt anyway, and a gank setup. Normally typically run them as one bar, just for simplicity. Best combat in any MMO I've played. Yes, that is why people like ESO still, is because the combat system, it does work well, but the wild changes, the wild adjustments, you know, nerfing something after 10 years of the game's life at this stage, is it even worth it, to be honest? And they don't seem to address the bigger issues, like you said, the cross healing. Everyone's just going to be running ball groups, but they did make one good change, which is the BGs. I'll show you. They've actually added a solo queues, which I think was definitely needed, because I did briefly play like one match. I think I did 1 or 2 matches of the 4v4, and you're just getting groups. You're just going to get absolutely steamrolled, you know, DK groups, Warden groups. So I'm glad they've finally put on the solo queues, because I normally play solo. So that's good news there. That's a positive change, because I think a lot of people were put off with the Battlegrounds because you're fighting against groups. And I think having solo queues is the way to go, because even with the original Battlegrounds, I was always just doing the solo queue, because who wants to fight against groups unless you're in a group yourself? Do you know what I mean? So that's something decent at least. But I said you can actually drop the cost on that even more if you wanted to, you know, with the correct race, Imperial, and you can have cost reduction. But obviously with ganking, you don't want to start eating into your damage. So love your content, always watcher, but till they fix this, yeah. I mean, I'm still gonna play here, so I'm still going to do a couple of ganking setups and that to release. I'm actually going to release one. I'm meant to be releasing one today, I think. But yeah, like I said, it's not a great change. I mean, what people have said as well is that it's just going to basically weedle out newbie gankers, and you need to know what you're doing. You know, if you're just pressing cloak and running around like an headless chicken, you know, not knowing what's happening, then you're going to go down. But I think gankers that are experienced in that, or Nightblades in general, for PvP, you're going to be fine. As long as you've got that maximum. You don't have to have it as high as what I've got. This is just a little overkill. As long as it's over 30k, which most of my ganking builds, by the way, I think have over 30k, because like I said, I always spec into the max magicka. You've got plenty of time to lay into a gank, and like I said, if you're not moving, this is the problem. You're still going to get gankers because you could be at a door not moving, and as long as you've got some recovery, because the cost is so low now, you can basically cloak infinitely. And the second you start moving is when your timer is going to be ticking. So I did make a build. It's wiped my characters, so I can't show you. So I could just spec it anyway, to be honest. Let's go for max magicka. It was a DLC overland set. Overland sets. Craft the Alpeak. We'll quickly whack that on. I mean, this is, like I said, this will be basically what I said to run if you just wanted crazy max magicka, you know, and just totally not worry about it at all. But I said with the cost reduction now, you ain't going to need to do this. I mean, you're probably still going to hit hard anyway. You know, like I said, your damage scales off your highest stat as well, so it's definitely going to be a valid build still for ganking. Next one is a PvP set. So we go to armor. Cyrodiil sets. I think it's in the other. Yep, Grace of the Ancient, that's the one. We'll just slap on the great sword, necklace. And of course, the open soul. I normally always go Balog, or can really go what you, well, but my still favourite ganking monster set at the moment is the Anthemirs. It just hits so hard. And because we're running all light, probably chuck on a bit of medium. I'm trying to do the exact setup I actually had in the build. I'm sure I was running this, it wasn't Balog. It's either Balog or this I would use. I would recommend. And then I think that was trainee, one piece trainee. So crafty, Grace of the Ancients. And obviously just go full damage. I must admit I probably will try this setup. Because I just think it's going to be crazy, it's going to hit super hard. Probably chuck on Tango Mark target. Don't want to use that as much, you probably want a concealed. I'll chuck me in the light. And I normally run in pale. Actually no way, I do not run it like this. I've not got me spec by one. You ain't got to worry about the pen because that's all there. So that means I think on the actual build, I think I held it for like 35 seconds, the cloak. So now let's see how far it actually goes. It was 30, yeah, I'm sure it was 35 plus seconds you could hold the, mind you, I've got the Mundus on and I didn't have that Mundus. Just change the Mundus and that will be done. And I've also got to bite someone just so I can get it the same. I think I might have had the mage. I should have picked a bigger place. Super squishy gank build, but you're going to be delivering super damage with this. So we'll be testing the cloak. I just need to quickly bite a couple of NPCs and then we'll get back and we will test out how long I can cloak for. We're purely just specking into max magicka for damage. What do you reckon, guys? A minute cloak? 50 seconds? Obviously, with the cost of the shadowy cloak, and all your skills will increase when you're a vampire, so I'll just recommend stage 2 will do. Purely just for the strike from the shadows, and you can get the undeath for 3. All good there. We'll test it out. The hills are going to be insane as well. I said you won't have to worry about the pen either. Just do a quick little test. Yeah, this is the setup I probably will be running, to be fair. I've got no champion either. I'll just spec into the blue one, I won't bother with the red one. Can even chuck that on if you wanted to get even crazier. I hope I'm not going to lose all this. Probably not the best place to do your champion points. No, I've still got it. So just ignore the health, obviously, as you probably get to about 20k with the red CPs dotted. So we're now at 54,000 max magicka on a viable gank build. Like I said, it will be squishy. It'll be high risk, high reward gank sort of style. Did I put on the weapon damage enchantment? So nearly 6,000 spell damage, 55k max magicka. I would really like to see some spec bow numbers on this against a human player. I will show the cloaking thing in a sec. So how long can we cloak for? So I'll start the cloak now, and then I'll count how many seconds it actually lasts for. With obviously the new changes, like I said, the cost will have increased a little bit because I'm vampire, but not by much. Let's go. So that was about 44 seconds there. So it's definitely, I think, yeah, like I said, the build I done with the previous PTS, where the cost was dearer than that. I think it was around 3.5 or 3. It was around 35 seconds, so you've gained about another 10 seconds running this build. But like I said, this is like crazy overkill. With the max magicka, this is basically a troll build against the game designers. So there's always ways around things. But to be honest, if they would have just done the ramping cost, that wouldn't have been it wouldn't have been abused as much. But with this toggle, it can be, you know, it opens the door to much more abuse. Like I said, I've seen videos on infinite cloaking and all sorts. So even though like 45 or 40 odd seconds is good, you can actually go a lot more, but obviously then you would then start eating into damage. So you still want a viable ganking build that delivers the damage. Just want to see how hard the spec bow is. Yeah, I thought it'd be around the 62k mark. Yeah, so what do you guys think about the changes then? At least it's been improved. But it's still toggle, so you can get the max magicka higher than that, but you'd have to use like the vampire ult and all sorts of stuff, and you'd lose the pen. So if anyone wants to try this build, like I said, it's not even that hard to put together. It's really like crafty. It's not really too hard to get your hands on. You can buy it. It's an overland set if you just want crazy max magicka. And then obviously you can't run another 5-piece with Oaken Soul and the monster, so Ancient Grace is nice, gives you another ton. Again, easy to buy. And then of course just chuck the Oaken Soul on. The only thing tricky to get hold of is that monster set, or you can put on Balorg or even more pen and more higher damage, but I prefer this because it just hits super hard. I mean, if you've got 6k, over 6k, I mean, we're continuously looking at probably 6.5k spell damage, and then 54k max magicka, and then on top of it you can cloak for ages. You know, it's just like a stack gank build. It's just, you know, rather than relying on just constant procs of like Flame Blossom or something else, I'm only using one proc, and just, you could even go further and put on like max magicka on here and here, but I think you're probably better with a monster set. I mean, you could push the max magicka more, but even this is just crazy overkill. Look, I mean, look at this, you can just cloak as much as you please. Particularly if you put on, let's put on, because obviously it's a bit on the slow side. I mean, I use this as a spammer ball, and it sets them off balance. You get the minor expedition, but you could put on the Sigic Lion. Sometimes I do put on the Race Against Time for the major expedition. And that does not disable the cloak, because some skills don't disable cloak. So they've not changed the skills that do. Obviously some do, see that breaks the stealth. So let's just start fresh. Come out of here as well. You know, that's not even with using potions as well. You can obviously drink a potion to keep it going even more. So let's start. So we're cloaking, Race Against Time. Obviously if you keep casting that, that will use magicka as well. I'm trying to think of what else I can test. I think I've pretty much covered the basics of it. Unfortunately, I would like to try it against human opponents. I mean, I could try and queue for a Battlegrounds, but I can't see that working. And it's not really a Battlegrounds-esque build too much. It's more of a sort of open world, sort of time your gank build, or this particular setup anyway. I could try. I'd probably have concealed weapon on there, to be fair. Coming with heavy attack into ult. And of course you can just hit them with the spec bow if that's ready, or concealed weapon, or impale. I don't think there's ever enough players on the PTS to do. Try it though, might be people queuing solo. Give it a go. But like I said, this will be squishy. You probably will die a lot in Battlegrounds. It's more sort of tactical ganking, more open world. We've got a bit more movement. But to be fair, it's going to deliver the damage. I would have thought, having that magicka that high. But this is the problem with the game developers. They don't correctly go about things properly. But they're, like I said, this toggle is not going to go away. They're going to keep it as a toggle. And all we can do is just adapt to it. Like you have to adapt to any changes if you want to keep playing the game. I don't think we're going to get a Battleground because we're on the PTS. So they try to sweeten the deal as well by giving you that 10% damage bonus to monsters. Which ain't too bad. But yeah, I think I'll leave it there, guys. So hopefully this has helped some players out understand the changes, the ever weekly changes they keep making. And this is sort of like a setup you could run, that I definitely probably will run when the patch goes live, just to see how it goes. Obviously, like I said, the 17k health is a bit on the low side, but I didn't spec into the champion points, and you could always change the food or the mundus. To be honest, I'm just pushing the max magicka a little bit, but you could easily run as a Tesla's lunchbox. You could run Bewitched. I don't normally run Bewitched, to be honest, because I'm not really bothered about health recovery or magicka recovery too much. You could easily run that. Obviously, yeah, you ain't going to be able to sustain in cloak as long, but you just won't be as squishy. So the heals are going to be insane as well. So yeah, I'll leave it there, guys. Thank you so much for tuned in. Hopefully this has been helpful, and just basically showing you guys the changes. So take what you will from it. Like I said, I probably will be checking out that Throne and Liberty as well. So I know a lot of ESO players have gone to that as well. I'm not surprised. I will still be playing ESO, just not as much. Or just be sort of doing Throne and Liberty, just see how it is. Hopefully I'll get on with that game. It does look good. It looks similar to ESO, so see what it's like. I'll see you in the next video, guys.